Guys, welcome back to Miss King's AP Environmental Science class. Today we're going to be talking about overfishing, one of the major threats to marine biodiversity, with the exception of pollution, development, and climate change. This will probably be a very short video, so we'll talk about the major topics and give you a chance to discuss some of the other aspects of it in class. When we talk about overfishing, we're actually going to go back to that first unit again. We're going to be talking about maximum sustainable yield. Remember, that is the maximum amount that a particular resource can be harvested and still be able to support itself. The problem with overfishing is largely that this maximum sustainable yield is not really very well understood. The projections that give us what the population of a particular fish species is usually based on reports of fishermen catches. And fishermen often underreport their catches in order to increase this maximum sustainable yield because it's more economically advantageous for them to do so. Most overfishing occurs at what they have projected the maximum sustainable yield to be. Actually, if you look at the graph on your slide there, we are actually more at the overfished portion of that graph rather than the fully fished portion. Many aquatic biologists are now trying to work with many fisheries and fishing companies to move this maximum sustainable yield method to what is called the optimum sustainable yield method. This would move the fishing graph more toward the intensely fished portion of this graph, which would allow a lot more error and a lot more area in which those fish populations can increase themselves again. There are a lot of things in recent years that have been done to reduce overfishing. One of the things you definitely need to look at is the list of laws regulating aquatic biodiversity document that has been put up on Blackboard. That is one thing that will help you understand how we've started to legislate overfishing and things such as this. That feeds into the very first thing of having tougher regulations, increasing fines, making it more difficult to get a permit to use particular types of fishing in certain areas. We also want to use economic incentives. Those can be either positive incentives or negative incentives. At this point, we are moving more toward the negative economic incentive, in which individuals who are caught fishing beyond their limit or catching fish or other aquatic organisms that they are not supposed to are usually subjected to severe fines. One of the major things we want to look at with overfishing, not just stopping increasing the number of fish that are being caught, is to reduce the number of other organisms that are caught during these processes. A species or an organism that is caught in a fishing net that was not the primary target is known as bycatch. Bycatch often includes sea turtles, seabirds, small sharks, and dolphins. One other way that we can start to reduce overfishing is by establishing protected areas near the coasts in the open ocean where it is illegal or extremely difficult to obtain a permit to fish. At this point, we are trying to mitigate these problems with overfishing by using two different resources. We have switched, in some cases, to aquaculture and multi species management. When it comes to aquaculture, one of the things that they are trying to do is to make sure that these fish farms are in the right places so that they are not affecting the biodiversity of the areas that they are in. We don't want to destroy an estuary to build a fish farm so that we have enough cod for red lobster. We also want to increase types of herbivorous fish. You don't want predatory fish to be in these aquaculture areas. With herbivorous fish, they are fish that feed on usually kelps, more aquatic plants that can be used to help maintain these ecosystems. In addition, we have this idea called multi-species management. And what this is we take a particular area and we start to regulate it looking at the organismal interactions, the predator-prey interactions, the symbiosis. This allows us to work in a large marine ecosystem. And as of right now, the only place that has been relatively successful with it is an interaction between Japan and China in terms of the Yellow Sea. At that point, that is the most successful example of multi species management. Last but not least, we want to talk about the basic types of fishing that are used in terms of economics at this point. One of the earliest and possibly still most common is what is called bottom trawling. And that is when a fishing boat drags a very long net that usually reaches the bottom of a particular area. There's a funnel net that drags the bottom of the ocean or the particular body of water that's being fished, and it catches anything in its path. In terms of bycatch, bottom trawling is possibly the worst one that you could have because it will catch anything that gets anywhere near it. One of the things that has been put forward to stop this amount of bycatch is what are called exclusion areas within those nets. They work best with nets that are designed to catch small things, such as very small fish, shrimp. Exclusion areas in these nets, they allow larger things such as turtles or dolphins. When they are caught in the net, they will slide back, hit a barrier, and kind of fall out of a trap door. The next type that has become relatively common is a drift net. Drift nets are when a fishing boat trails a net that kind of floats in the water. As of 1992, there is a ban on any drift net that is longer than 1.5 miles long. These are a little bit better in terms of bycatch, but they still have a very, very high rate of catching turtles, seabirds, and dolphins. Thirdly, you have what is called long line fishing. This is where you have one single main line with several smaller fishing lines and hooks attached. These hooks are baited usually in order to catch a specific type of fish. Unfortunately, they are very, very notorious for picking up turtles, dolphins, and some of the smaller whales. The last one, and possibly the best one in terms of reducing bycatch, is the purse method. The purse seine method is when you have a spotter in an aircraft that looks for schools of fish in relatively shallow waters. Then what happens is you have a large boat, you have a fishing boat that is waiting on the water for information from these aircraft. And what happens is this boat usually deploys a small motorized schooner that will carry one end of the net. The main boat has the other end of the net. And the net is dropped around the school of fish that is seen, and then it is drawn tightly to catch them up. This is possibly the best method because it is very targeted to a particular group of fish in a particular area. You still tend to have some bycatch here, but much, much less than what you have with other resources in terms of these types of fishing mechanisms. These types of fishing are extremely common because roughly about 1% of the world's diet is seafood, and it makes up 10% of the animal protein that we consume. Unfortunately, only 1/3 of the fish that is caught in these types of fishing mechanisms are actually used for consumption. So 1/3 is actually eaten. 1/3 goes to things such as fish oil, other byproduct things that are used. The last third of this is bycatch, and in many cases, the organisms that are caught as bycatch end up dying before they can be replaced back into the ecosystem.